welcome once again to another new video. This is Santu Sahu and you are watching Sahu's tutorial, and this video is going to deal with an important American novelist called Thomas Wolfe. And Thomas Wolfe was one of the prominent figure, a prolific writer in the field of in the domain of American literature. He has especially written novels, and in this video we will discuss his important novels, his four important novels. Those are Look, Homeward, Angel, and the second one is Of Time and the River, and You Can't Go Home Again, and the last one is Wave in the Rock. So we will discuss these four novels, which are very important for the perspective of recent English literature. We'll cover his major works. So let's get into the video with this slide here. That Thomas Clayton Wolfe was born in the year 1900 and died in 1938. Was an important American novelist of early 20th century, and Wolfe wrote four lengthy novels, and we'll discuss those four lengthy novels as well as many short stories and dramatic works and novellas. But his novels are well known. Okay, he is known for mixing highly original, poetic, and rhapsodic and impressionistic prose with autobiographical writing. His books written and published from 1920s to 1940s vividly reflect on American culture and the modes of that period, filtered through Wolfe's sensitive and sophisticated and hyper-analytical perspective. Okay, here after Wolfe's death, a contemporary author, that is William Faulkner, the American novelist, said that Thomas Wolfe might have been the greatest talent of their generation for aiming higher than any other writer. And Wolfe's influence extend to the writings of Beat generation. So the Beat generation writers were influenced by Wolfe, like Jack Kerouac and authors Roy Bradbury and Philip Roth. They also were influenced by Thomas Wolfe, and he remains an important writer in modern American literature. So one of the first masters of autobiographical fiction. So he was one of the first masters of autobiographical fiction, and is considered North Carolina's most famous writer. So he is considered as North Carolina's most famous writer. Who? Thomas Wolfe. And Thomas Wolfe's writings had influenced the writers of Beat generations like Jack Kerouac, as well as the authors like Roy Bradbury and Philip Roth. So the first important novel written by Thomas Wolfe is the magnum opus novel, that is the Look, Homeward, Angel, a story of the buried life. So Look, Homeward, Angel, a story of the buried life. So this is the subtitle, a story of the buried life. And this is a 1929 novel by Thomas Wolfe. It is Wolfe's first novel, and it is considered a highly autobiographical American coming-of-age story. So this is a bildungsroman or a coming-of-age story, and this is autobiographical novel written by Thomas Wolfe. And Wolfe was very much close to his brother Ben. Wolfe's brother name was Ben, whose early death at the age of 26 is chronicled in Look, Homeward, Angel. So the death of his brother, that is chronicled in this novel, Look, Homeward, Angel, a story of the buried life. And Wolfe was very much close to his brother called Ben. And the character of Eugene Gant is generally believed to. So there is a character in the novel, there is Look, Homeward, Angel. In that novel, there is a character called Eugene Gant, and it is generally believed to be a depiction of Wolfe himself. So the character Eugene Gant is representing the novelist Thomas Wolfe in this novel. And the novel is briefly recounts Eugene's father's early life, but primarily covers the span of time from Eugene's birth in 1900 to his definitive departure from home at the age of 19. And the setting is a fictionalization of his hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, called Altamont, Catawba in the novel. So his hometown is Asheville, North Carolina, and it is represented as a fictionalized city called Altamont, that is Asheville. Asheville is represented as Altamont, whereas North Carolina is and Catawba in the novel. Okay. There is also a restored version. A restored version of the original manuscript of Look, Homeward, Angel, titled O Lost, was published. So the restored version, that is O Lost, it was published in the year 2000. So a restored version is called O Lost. And the title here, that is Look, Homeward, Angel, the title of Thomas Wolfe's novels, comes from John Milton's poem Lycidas. So the Look, Homeward, Angel, this title has been taken from John Milton's poem Lycidas, And here is the line. Here are the lines. Here are the lines that look homeward, angel now, and melt with Ruth, and oh ye dolphins wept with the hapless youth. So this is 163 to 164 lines from Lycidas, and the title has been taken from Milton's Lycidas, Look Homeward, Angel. And Wolfe's original title was The Building of a Wall, which later changed to Olost. The original title was The Building of a Wall, which later changed to Olost. Wolfe began the novel in 1926, intending to delve into the strange and the bitter magic of life. So he was intending to go deep into the strange and bitter magic of life. The novel was written over 20 months. And Wolfe is often characterized as a romantic wing to the power of his emotionally charged, sprawling style. And here we will see the technique, that is the stream of consciousness technique, is used in this novel. Look Homeward, Angel is written in a stream of consciousness, and that was popularized by James Joyce. So it reminiscences the style of James Joyce stream of consciousness. Okay, and the book is divided in 3 parts with a total of 40 chapters. So the book had 3 parts having 40 chapters. The first 90 pages of the book deal with an early biography of Gant's parents, and very closely based on the actual history of Thomas Wolfe's own mother and father. That's why this novel is an autobiographical novel. It begins with his father, that is Oliver's, decisions to become a stone cutter after seeing a statue of a stone angel. The novel begins with his father, Oliver's, decision to become a stone cutter. The father has decided to become a stone cutter when he saw a statue of a stone angel. Here is the first one. The story of first one is that the first marriage of Oliver Gant, the father of the protagonist Eugene. Eugene is the protagonist, and Eugene's father is Oliver Gant, who married for the first time, and it ends in tragedy, after which Oliver becomes an alcoholic, and the father, Oliver Gant, became alcoholic. He eventually remarries and builds a new house and starts a family. However, the couple is beset with tragedy. Their first daughter dies of cholera in infancy, while 2 more babies die at birth. And Eugene's early education, that is our protagonist of the novel, that is Homeward, Angel, written by Thomas Wolfe. Here the protagonist is Eugene, and his early education includes several classes with teachers, but he has a love of books and is bright, much to the pride of both his parents, and his mother continues to baby him, to soothe him, and unwilling to see him grow up. And here is the part 2. That part 2 is dealing with primarily with Eugene's educations, and both scholastically and real life experience. He is working at his brother, that is Ben's, newspaper while continuing to study Shakespeare and romantic poetry. So he is working at his brother Ben's newspaper while continuing to study Shakespeare and romantic poetry. And WWI is underway. Ben is diagnosed with lung cancer. Ben is diagnosed with lung cancer in Baltimore. So real life experience or biographical novel. Part 3, where Eugene begins his education at UNC as a teenage boy, alienated and out of place. He is summoned by his mother to come home immediately because brother Ben is in a near coma with pneumonia. And Thomas Wolfe's biographer, that is Elizabeth Novel. So who is the biographer of Thomas Wolfe? Elizabeth Novel has said Wolfe's descriptions of Ben's death was the finest writing of his career. And Eugene returns to UNC and completes his studies after the death of his brother. He tells his mother of his plan, and she begs him to remain in North Carolina and work for a newspaper. But Eugene tells Elijah that he has destiny elsewhere, that he cannot be boxed in by a small mountain town in North Carolina. So he wants to go away from his hometown because he wanted to do something better. He does not want to work for the newspaper. And here is the second novel written by Thomas Wolfe, that is Of Time and the River. Of Time and the River. And its subtitle is A Legend of Man's Hunger in His Youth, published in the year 1935. So this is also a fictionalized autobiography using the name Eugene Gant for Wolfe's, telling the protagonist early and mid-20s, during which time the character attends Harvard University and moves to New York City and teaches the English at a university there. and travels overseas with a character called Francis Starwick. So, Of Time and the River, subtitle A Legend of Man's Hunger in His Youth, a 1935 novel by Thomas Wolfe, and a fictionalized autobiography using the name of Eugen for Oops. And Francis Starwick was based on Wolfe's friend, that is playwright Kenneth Reisbeck, and he in the overseas was traveling with a character called Francis Starwick, and that character, that is Francis Starwick, was based on Wolfe's friend, that is playwright Kenneth Reisbeck. And the novel was published by Scribners and edited by Maxwell Perkins. So it was edited by Maxwell Perkins. There is another novel, that is The Wave and the Rock. This is the third novel written by Thomas Wolfe. The Wave and the Rock is an American Bildungsroman or coming-age story by Thomas Wolfe, published posthumously after the death of Thomas Wolfe in the year 1939. So this novel published posthumously after the death of Thomas Wolfe in the year 1939. It is a coming-of-age story. It is a Bildungsroman novel, The Wave and the Rock. And Wave and the Rock's its sequel is You Can't Go Home Again. And the sequel of Wave and the Rock is You Can't Go Home Again, and also The Hills Beyond. It was extracted by Edward Aswell from the larger manuscript after Wolfe's death. So the novel's protagonist is George Monk Weber, The Wave and the Rock. So here the novel's protagonist is George Monk Weber, a novelist from North Carolina who is clearly based on Wolfe himself and is reminiscent of Eugen Gant, the protagonist of Wolfe's earlier novels called Look Homeward Angel and Of Time and the River, also based by Wolfe on himself. So these novels are basically autobiographical novels. All the main protagonists, a main protagonist is based on the novelist itself, called Thomas Wolfe. Here the protagonist is George Monk Weber, who is a novelist from the North Carolina, is also based on the novelist Thomas Wolfe. So here basically it is an autobiographical novel and Bildungsroman, the growth of a hero. The book's ending words are the title of his next novel, You Can't Go Home Again. So the book is ending, it is ending with this line, that is You Can't Go Home Again, and the title of the next novel is also same, that is You Can't Go Home Again. So the book's ending words are the title of his next novel called You Can't Go Home Again. So here is the next novel, that You Can't Go Home Again is a novel by Thomas Wolfe. This novel was also published posthumously in the year 1940, and it was extracted by his editor, that is Edward Aswell. And its sequel is it is a sequel. It is a sequel to The Wave and the Rock. So first comes The Wave and the Rock, and after that comes You Can't Go Home Again, which, along with the collection of The Hills Beyond, was extracted from the same manuscript. And the novel here is telling the story of George Weber, the protagonist of the earlier novel, that is The Wave and the Rock. Here George Weber, a fledgling author who writes a book that makes frequent references to his hometown of Livia Hill, which was actually Asheville, North Carolina. And the book is a national success, but the residents of the town being unhappy with what they view as a Weber's distorted depiction of them and send the author menacing letters and death threats. Okay. George Weber, here the protagonist, has written a successful novels about his family and hometown. When he returns to the town, he is thwarted by the force of outrage and hatred that greets him. Family and lifelong friends feel naked and exposed by what they have seen in his books, and their fury drives him from his home. Outcast. So here now George Weber is outcast. He was thrown out of his hometown. Begins a search for his own identity. Now George Weber is now looking for his own identity. He's searching for his own identity. It takes him to New York and a hectic social whirl, to Paris with an uninhabited group of expatriates, to Berlin, lying cold and sinister under Hitler's shadow. The journey comes full circle when Weber returns to America and rediscovers it with love and sorrow and hope. The journey comes full circle. He again comes back to America and rediscovers it with love, sorrow, and hope. This is how the novel ends. And another published novel that is published posthumously is The Hills Beyond. The Hills Beyond is a novel published posthumously. Like his earlier novels, The Wave and the Rock, You Can't Go Home Again, it was also extracted by Edward Aswell from a large manuscript after Wolfe's death. And The Hills Beyond is usually considered an unfinished novel. So this is an unfinished, incomplete novel written by Thomas Wolfe, and this work was also published posthumously, but it has also been described as a collection of sketches, stories, and novellas. The book tells the story of the Joyner family in North Carolina Carolina from before the Civil War to 1930s. Before the Civil War to 1930s. So the book tells the story of a Joyner family. The story of a Joyner family, Joyner, Joyner family in North Carolina. So the Joyners are the maternal ancestors and the relative of George Weber and the fictional character Joy Weber, who is a fictional character based on Wolfe himself, who is the protagonist of his posthumously published novels like The Wolfe and the Rock and the You Cannot Go Home. So here the Joyners are the maternal ancestors and the relative of George Weber, who is a fictional character that appeared in the earlier novels like The Wolfe and the Rock and the You Cannot Go Home. Okay, so these are all important novels written by Thomas Wolfe that I have discussed in this video. And if you want me to make video on any particular topic, you can write me down, you can suggest me in the comment box. I will definitely make a video on this topic or any particular author. Thank you once again for watching the video, and do not forget to subscribe the channel and tap the bell icon to get more notification that are uploaded in future.